Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to picture this for a second. Imagine you're standing in a packed park during a highly anticipated solar eclipse. As the moon slowly slides right across the sun, the sky dims into this really surreal twilight haze. You can actually feel the ambient temperature drop a bit, and everyone around you turns their faces up to the sky. So naturally, you glance up too, right? Just for a few seconds, just to catch a quick look at this massive cosmic event with your bare eyes. And it doesn't hurt. Your eyes don't burn, you don't feel a sting, and when you blink, your vision seems completely normal. So you assume, hey, everything's perfectly fine. But behind the scenes, deep inside the back of your eye, millions of incredibly delicate light-sensitive cells are quietly cooking under intense radiation. And the absolute most dangerous part of all of this, you won't feel a single thing until hours later when the damage is already done and it is completely irreversible.
So this brings us to a frankly terrifying mystery that we're going to unravel today. Why does blinding yourself feel completely painless? Seriously, how is it biologically possible that you can permanently cook the light-sensitive cells in your own eyes without feeling a single sting, a scratch, or a burn? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating medical science behind what's called solar retinopathy. We'll explore exactly how staring at the sun during an eclipse literally tricks your brain, totally bypassing your body's natural evolutionary defense mechanisms to silently cause permanent injury.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the eye's magnifying glass.
To really wrap our heads around why the sun is so dangerous, you have to think of your eye like a high-precision camera lens. Right at the front, your cornea and your crystalline lens take scattered light from the world around you and focus it onto the retina, which is that super delicate layer of neural tissue at the back of your eye. Now, normally, this is perfectly safe because that scattered light lands gently and evenly. But when you look directly at the sun, well, your eye suddenly acts exactly like a kid holding a magnifying glass over a dry leaf on a hot summer day. Instead of scattering the light, it aggressively focuses all that incoming solar radiation into a single, intensely powerful pinpoint of energy. And interestingly enough, that pinpoint of energy doesn't just land on some random spot in the back of your eye. It focuses directly onto a structure called the fovea centralis. Now, this is a tiny, highly sensitive spot right in the dead center of your macula, and it is completely responsible for your sharpest central vision. It's literally the very vision you're using right now to read text. It's what you use to recognize the faces of your friends and family and to see fine details. So by looking directly at the sun, you are essentially aiming a microscopic laser precisely at the absolute most important functional part of your eyesight.
Thankfully, though, human beings have evolved to survive our environment. Under ordinary, everyday conditions, if you step outside and try to stare straight up at a bright midday sun, two automatic evolutionary defenses kick in almost instantly to protect your retina. First up, you have the pupillary light reflex. Your pupil rapidly constricts. It shrinks right down to a tiny little point to physically block out that excess light. Second, you have the squint reflex. That blinding glare causes extreme visual discomfort, which involuntarily triggers an immediate squint and makes you physically turn your head away. Basically, your body forces you to look away long before severe damage can actually happen.
But here is where things take a turn. Section 2, the deadly eclipse illusion. You see, the totally unique environment of a solar eclipse effectively disables those exact biological defenses we just talked about. On a normal day, the bright sun forces a constricted pupil and extreme discomfort. But during an eclipse, because way less total light is reaching the ground, the overall environment darkens, kind of mimicking dusk or early evening. And this creates a downright deadly optical illusion for your nervous system. Because the ambient lighting drops, your brain simply assumes, oh, it's just getting dark outside. So consequently, your pupil dilates. It opens up wide to allow more light in so you can see your surroundings. And at the exact same time, because that ambient brightness is so low, your automatic squint reflex never triggers. Out of nowhere, it feels completely comfortable and entirely safe to just stare right up at that crescent sun. But here is the shocking fact you really need to take away from this. Even if 99% of the sun's surface is covered by the moon, that remaining 1% exposed ring is still emitting the exact same dangerous surface radiance as the completely uneclipsed sun. Just think about the mechanics we just laid out. You now have a widely dilated pupil accepting intense, highly focused solar radiation, and it's beaming it directly onto an unprotected macula, with absolutely zero discomfort pushing you to look away. You have effectively opened the floodgates while completely turning off the alarm system. Let's dive into the cellular level now. Section 3. Biology of eye damage.
When that concentrated, laser-like light hits the microscopic level of the retina, two distinct types of severe damage occur almost instantaneously. The first is thermal coagulation. The intense visible and near-infrared light absorbed by a retinal tissue generates highly localized heat. Temperatures inside the tissue spike incredibly fast, causing structural proteins to literally denature. In simple terms, the heat is basically cooking your delicate photoreceptor cells. The second type of damage, which is honestly even more destructive, is phototoxicity. The sun's high-energy ultraviolet or UV radiation triggers a massive chemical cascade inside your cells. This generates these volatile molecules known as free radicals, which violently break down cell membranes, destroy cellular DNA, and trigger programmed cell death, which is medically known as apoptosis. So the absolutely crucial point here, and the question we started with, is why on earth don't you feel any pain while your cells are being thermally and chemically destroyed? Well, the answer is zero. Your retina has exactly zero nociceptors. Now, nociceptors are those specialized sensory nerve endings responsible for feeling pain. Your skin has millions of them, which is exactly why a sunburn on your shoulder hurts immediately, right? It warns you to get out of the sun. But your retina completely lacks them. Because there are absolutely zero pain receptors back there, this severe solar tissue destruction occurs in complete and utter silence.
And the insidious nature of this damage, it doesn't stop there. The death of these photoreceptors isn't instantaneous when it comes to the visual symptoms you actually experience. At 0 hours during the actual exposure looking at the eclipse, it's completely silent and painless. But that biochemical breakdown, that horrific destruction of DNA and cell membranes we mentioned, that takes hours to peak, typically between 4 to 12 hours later. This means you could comfortably watch an eclipse at 2 p.m., go about your day feeling absolutely fine, go to sleep, and wake up the very next morning to discover a permanent visual impairment.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Symptoms and Safe Viewing.
If you don't take precautions and you do end up suffering from solar retinopathy, the symptoms that can show up that next morning are honestly terrifying. You might experience a central scotoma, which is a persistent dark spot, a literal blind patch sitting directly in the very middle of your visual field, right where you need it most. Or you could experience metamorphosa, where straight lines suddenly appear wavy, bent, or entirely distorted. Then there's micropsia, which causes objects to appear much smaller than they actually are. And finally, photophobia, which leaves you with a severe, painful sensitivity to just normal everyday light. And while sure, some mild recovery can happen over several months as the surrounding tissue stabilizes, I really need to be clear here. Severe photoreceptor destruction is permanent. There is currently no medical cure, there's no magic pill, and there's no surgical procedure that can repair burnt retinal tissue.
Because there is no cure, prevention is literally your only option. And to do that, we need to firmly debunk a very common, very dangerous myth right now. Standard, dark, or polarized sunglasses are completely useless for an eclipse. In fact, they are actively dangerous. Think back to our biology lesson earlier. Dark sunglasses block some of that visible glare, right? Which tricks your brain into dilating your pupils even wider. However, standard sunglasses do not block the intense infrared and UV radiation. So by wearing them, you are simply opening your pupil wider to let the absolute most damaging phototoxic radiation pass straight through to your retina. It's a terrible idea. If you want to view an eclipse safely, you have to sear this exact string of numbers into your memory, ISO 12312-2. If you are going to look directly at the sun, you have to use protective viewer filters that explicitly carry this international safety certification. These specialized, highly engineered filters block 99.999% of visible light, and they block virtually all of the harmful UV and infrared radiation. Without this specific filter, you are literally risking permanent damage. Of course, you can always rely on safe indirect viewing methods, like building a simple pinhole projector, which lets you view the shadow cast by the eclipse without ever actually looking up toward the sun itself.
So, to leave you with a final thought on this explainer today, your eyes are extraordinarily complex, beautifully evolved organs. But we have to remember they evolved entirely to process scattered, reflected light from the world around us. They absolutely did not evolve to take on the direct, magnified radiation of a star. The biology of our vision is a marvel, but it has strict limits. So the next time a solar eclipse passes overhead and the sky dims into that surreal twilight, will our cosmic curiosity safely respect our evolutionary limits? I really hope you take this knowledge, share it with your friends and family, and make sure that you protect your retinas so you can keep enjoying all the beautiful sights of our world for decades to come.
Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay safe out there.